I am really, really curious to hear this one. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for clicking on the video because look at the sidebar over there or over there. There's so many places you could have clicked on. Like you got that video over there, you got that video. I don't know why that video was recommended to you because that's a weird one. But there's other places you could have been, but for the moment you chose to be here and I appreciate you doing that. Today, we're listening to a little bit from the Aristocrats and the Primuz Chamber Orchestra. We're listening to this track. It's the last track on the album. Last Orders is what we're checking out here, which was released in 2022. We are checking this out as this was suggested and sponsored by R. Gray. So thank you so much for the request. I appreciate you sending this one over. We've listened to, of course, a few tracks from the band, and I'm curious because they're now accompanied by orchestration. So I'm really curious how this is all going to kind of wind together and come together. Here, so let us go ahead and find out because there's one way to do that. I don't know why I said one way with my finger, but it's not the worst finger I could have used. Last Orders, here we go. I like how kick forward this is, and the snare's very much in the back. Oh, that's lovely. Has a massive presence. Love how the strings fill in. love how the bass and the guitar slide so perfectly in sync there. It creates a nice melodic harmony. I love that percussive sound as well during the solo. Good feathering. Release a little before halfway through. This is the breakaway. Jeez. We went off, huh? So perfectly came on a comeback. So a great sloping. Really nice de-escalation there. Really nice. I like how the strings fill in those spaces. Just pumping that kick drum a little heavier too there. Dance on those 16th notes for a second. Nice bend. The track has these really nice waves, not just hit, stop, and it's soft. Like it moves very organically. I feel like playing in the cuts. That's a very bluesy thing. I got to figure out which playlists I can add that on because it doesn't really fit on my jazz playlist, but it doesn't belong in my general. Maybe my progressive. I think I'm going to add it to my prog playlist. It's okay. That's an excellent track, and at a certain point, honestly, I turned my brain off and I just listened to it. I wasn't thinking about it anymore. I wasn't trying to follow it in a mentally active way. I was just letting it go. I was just listening to it because every single moment of this track, I feel is just audible candy. It's just pleasure injected directly to your ears, and where it goes from there, heart, soul. That's up to the individual. This is a perfect track from the band, and my favorite track that I've heard from them so far. Is it the addition of the orchestra? I think it plays a part, but I think that overall it's just the man, the subtlety and the way they move in this one. I really, 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 really like how I didn't look at when it happened. But for the most for the first third of this track, it's pretty soft spoken. Even when, the band kind of comes in, they start kind of soloing and stuff. It's pretty soft to approach. There's that moment where they kind of spike up, the electric guitar kind of comes in, and now it becomes a little bit more beautifully agitated, and then it comes down again. I expect rises and falls in a 10-minute track. I expect us to go through several different movements and ebbs and flows and ups and downs. But the way that they did it here, I thought was perfect. It wasn't like they were down here in the valleys playing to a subtle shadow, and then bop, they just shot up here. And then bop, they dropped you off the cliff and put you back down in the valley. That kind of gives me a musical whiplash sometimes when that happens, when a band does that. I really like how this had this perfect flow and allowed us, or I should say myself, to kind of get used to the musical altitude at a certain peak and then gently brought us back down. It's like I never forget I had this book when I was a really young kid, and it was about climbing Mount Everest and how, to get to the top, you had to first go from the bottom to base camp 1. You had to stay at base camp 1 for a while, and then you go to base camp 2 to get used to the oxygen levels or the lack thereof. Then from base camp 2, before you go to 3, you got to go back to 1. So you acclimate yourself and you gently rest. I think that this track did that in such a fantastic way. It brought us from base camp to summit in one whole trip and one beautiful, beautiful journey. And it was just a wonder to listen to. You have 3 excellent musicians here, obviously, with Govin on the guitar. You have Brian Beller on the bass, and then Miniman on the drums. I also really like the live feel that I felt that this had on the production side of things. Specifically, I hear it on the drums, but also the bass. Because when you go to a club or a venue, an arena, and you're going to go see a live band, I'm talking specifically right now of the bassist. When the bassist is performing, when you're inside that venue, or even when you're outside of the venue and you can hear the bassist perhaps doing the sound check inside, there's a very encompassing kind of feel. And even if it doesn't really hit that sub level, there's a kind of, you feel the bass reverberating inside of you a little bit. And I really, really feel like the way that Beller was playing in the production side of things, it really captured that really nicely. So it had that very strong kind of feeling to it. And just a really great resonance all around. And then Miniman on the drums, he was very much more reserved here than, of course, some of the directions that he can go in, because everyone knows he can go in some directions there. But I really like how reserved he played here, but at the same time, still having a palpable power in all that he did. I especially noticed it in the kick, from the very beginning. It's kind of like the kick was a little bit more forward, and it sounded like he had a big kick drum, not like a small compact one, but he had something like a bigger one. And the way that he feathered the kick drum in some of the moments there near the beginning, and then also near the final third of the track when he was kind of bringing more subtlety, but still that kind of palpitation. I thought that was really cool and a great feeling. And he kept such a great pocket in all of this and really played towards the subtlety of everything. The guitar playing from Govin, it is wonderful to listen to in how he can approach something so dreamy He can hit parts near the end that reference blues a little bit. There's obviously the middle section where it's like we're in a volcano and he begins to heat things up. Like there's just so many different directions that he can take you, and I like every single one of them. Not to mention the orchestration that's happening. I really like how the orchestra has moments where it lifts the band, right? The string section and such lifts the band. But there's also quite a few sections where the band leaves space, and you'll have, for example, the violin and the string section coming in with some fast cutting notes, kind of in a little instrumental fill, and then the band will proceed and transition perhaps to the next part, and so on and so forth. And during that intense moment at the summit of the track, the orchestra is right there to bring the heat alongside with the band. So all of that just made for a really great listen. And I do mention this quite a bit when it comes to orchestras around a band of any sort. But I really do feel like it makes sense here that the orchestra felt like a coat that was put onto the band. It just gives them a little bit more fashion. It just adds a different style to the band, even though it's the same person wearing the coat. If that makes any sense. The bass solo. I'm going to mention the bass solo. I'm always on the lookout for that. And I thought the one here was beautiful to listen to. I like how rounded out it felt. I like how, like I said, that's where you hear Miniman on the kick, kind of feathering it a little bit back there, adding this really unique kind of percussive sound and everything. I think that this is a fantastic track. Let me pull out some moments here really quick. Okay. And I also really love the intro. The intro is just the orchestra creating the cinema, right? Creating the sound for the band to enter upon. And boy, do they enter. Dreamy guitar, love it. As we start to get up a little bit more, the bass solo, man. See, doesn't the bass solo have that live feel where you get very close to hitting that live reverberation and resonance. And then we nicely hit the summit. And the intensity is earned. But see how nicely they come off it? See? They hit that peak and then they kind of even out. Strings, pop, 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 pop. Very dramatic. And then we start to wind down more. So that's what I meant, like every parts and every movement and every transition from section to section, moment to moment, really had this perfect structure and ebb and flow. And it just felt incredibly natural. And I also, like I said, that's one big thing that I like when it comes to specifically a progressive kind of band in any way, shape, or form. Making it make sense, playing to the song, playing to the mood, and this track had it all, as the card dealers say, in spades. Brilliant track. Playlist. It's on my prog playlist. Let me know what you guys thought. Of course, in the comments down below. Argre, thank you so much for the recommendation. This was a really fantastic track, and it's going to make a great addition to my playlist. And also, I think I mentioned this. I can't remember if I did or not now, but this is the final track on the album. And I can't speak for the rest of what preceded it, but what a way to end. That I can absolutely say. Let me know, of course, your thoughts down there. Oh, actually, you know what? I have the Bandcamp up over here, and I just happened to see this here. I thought this was kind of interesting. This project began when we randomly stumbled upon a YouTube video of Primuz Chamber Orchestra performing one of our songs, as reimagined by composer and arranger Wojciech Lemański. Their flawless execution of a highly challenging arrangement inspired us to reach out and propose a collaboration. You cannot tell me that is not a beautiful thing. That is, can you imagine Lemański I'm assuming getting an email from the band themselves saying, let's do something together. Thank you so much for honoring us and covering, our music, but let's do something together. And for the band to take it upon themselves and approach the orchestra. I think that is such a beautiful thing, just to come together like that. I think that's awesome, and I love little stories and things like that. Anyways, have a fantastic one. Thanks again for being here, and I will see you next time. Bye.